Hello children, we come to our unit 3, okay, cell structure and function. So this is the first unit that we'll be studying in our biology class. The cell as the basic unit. You all know that the cell is the basic unit. So there are some information that you should know about the history of the cell. So a cell was defined as unit of biological activity. So cell is a unit of biological activity delimited by a semi-permeable membrane. So it is having a boundary of the semi-permeable membrane and capable of self-reproduction in a medium free of other living systems. So there is a separation. Cell has a separate boundary in which its activities are going on, and it is capable of self-reproduction. Okay, so that definition was given by Loewe and Siekewitz, okay, in 1963. So sometimes the names of the scientists are also important. So just remember what was the definition given by these scientists for the cell, unit of biological activity delimited by a semi-permeable membrane and capable of self-reproduction in a medium free of other living system. Now the study of cell has been made possible with the help of light microscope. Robert Hooke was the first person who observed the cells under a light microscope and found that he actually observed the cells of cork, and he saw small compartments within it. They were made up of small cavities surrounded by firm walls. So he used the term cell for the first time to describe his investigation on the texture of piece of cork. So because there were compartment scenes, that is why he called it cell. Later on, Anton von Leeuwenhoek, he was the first one who observed various unicellular organisms and cells like bacteria, protozoan, RBC and sperm, etc. He also observed the nucleus in some erythrocytes. Erythrocytes are red blood cells, and all this was made possible with the improved microscope. So, then later on in the same year, importance of cell in living organism was discovered by Lamarck. Lamarck also you study in evolution, isn't it? So these are some basic things about the discovery of cell. Then Robert Brown in 1831 observed nucleus in certain plant cell. So he was the first one who observed the nucleus. Okay. Then mimosa cells were boiled in nitric acid by Dutrochet in 1837 to separate the cells to conclude that all organic tissues are composed of globular cells. All organic tissues means all living tissues are composed of globular cells united by simple adhesive forces. So there is some force which unites all the cells together. Next, all living organisms are composed of cells. This was stated by Schwann. So he is the person who is behind the cell theory. So he observed some variety of animal and plant tissues, and he said that all living organisms are having cells. Then in 1838, a German botanist, Matthias Kilden, was the first to state that cells are the building blocks of all plants. So he said something about plants, that plants are made up of cells. In the following year, another German botanist, Theodor Schwann, the one who we were talking earlier, stated that cells are the fundamental units of animals too. So both of them together, they gave the cell theory. These statements ended the notion that plants and animals have fundamental differences in structure. So earlier it was thought that plant and animal, they are completely different. But with the discovery of cell, they were unified together, that they have something in common. The plants and animals have something in common, and that is the cells. Okay, both are made up of cells. Their discoveries led to the formation of the cell theory. Cell theory states that cells are the basic units of all living organisms. Okay, so cell theory said that cells are the basic units. But the cell theory failed to explain how new cell arise. So how do the cells arise? That was not explained. In 1855, Rudolf Virchow, a German physiologist, stated in German that omnis cellula e cellula, which means that new cells come from already existing cells. So this was the theory given by Virchow. Then next, The important points of the modified cell theory are as follows. So you remember these points. What is the first point? The cell is the basic functional and structural unit of all living organisms. So for all functions and for the structure, we depend on the cell. So it is a basic unit. Okay, just like we know that a wall is made up of small bricks, or you know that all matters is made up of molecules. Same way, we say that cell is the basic functional and structural unit of all living organisms. All living organisms are made up of cells. Okay, then all cells arise from pre-existing cells, that we just heard, that omnis cellula is cellula. That means the new cells come out from the pre-existing cells. All cells are basically alike in chemical and metabolic activities. So there is some similarities between the plant cell and animal cell in the basic functioning. Okay, in all the metabolic activities there is some similarity. The cells are totipotent. That means they can form a whole organisms. They are capable of forming a whole organism under specific set of condition. Okay, so that is totipotency. Then exceptions to cell theory. Everywhere when a theory is proposed, there come some limitations. Okay, so what are the exceptions to cell theory? This theory is not able to explain about viruses. Viruses are non-living. You know that viruses, they are non-living, but when they enter into any living organisms, they start replicating. They hijack the machinery of any living cell and they start multiplying inside living cells. Okay, they do not have a cellular structure. So this is they can be considered, they are a link between living and non-living. Outside they are non-living, but inside when they come, they are living. So when they are living, because they do not have a cellular structure, that is why it is an exception. Cell theory is not able to explain the existence of viruses. Then bodies of certain fungi are made up of protoplasm and nuclei. So some certain fungi, the whole organisms having only nucleus and protoplasm. There is no cell as such. There is no compartmentalization. Such organisms are called cenocytic. Okay, that means they have only protoplasm and nuclei. There is no cell as such. Then RBCs and sieve tube cells continue to live without nucleus and other vital organisms. So cells, since we say that they are having a certain structure, here we see RBC and sieve tubes, they lack nucleus. You have already studied RBCs, no, they don't have nucleus because their main function is transport of oxygen. So to provide more surface area, they are anucleated, that is they don't have a nucleus. Now next topic is cell as a self-contained unit. That means cell has every possibility of existing on its own. So it is a self-contained, self-sufficient, we say, no, that we don't have to depend on others for everything. Same way, cell as a self-contained unit. So cell has all the processes which cell has special mechanism to do all the processes. Okay, like metabolic wastes are discarded by each through its own mechanism. Each cell can undergo division, producing identical daughter cell. Each cell can maintain homeostasis, that is the temperature can be maintained. They can regulate their activity through flow of energy and flow of information, that we will study now. The whole genetic information is contained in the cell and can be made to grow into a fully developed. So even one cell can give rise to the whole organism. Okay, so that is called totipotency. We studied that. Then each cell has its own lifespan. So every cell is programmed how much lifespan they have. We studied lifespan of RBC, WBC, like 120 days, few weeks, like that we study. So every cell has its own lifespan. So individually the cell is a self-contained unit. A cell may grow, divide and die while its surrounding cells may be in a different state. So each cell has its own program. Okay, so it is independent of what is happening around it. It will grow, divide and die whenever its time comes. Then we have unicellular and multicellular organisms. You know,